The video begins with chaos, not calm, as Emma Johnson screamed during a live stream, her voice trembling with panic, while millions tuned in to watch. A hand slammed her laptop shut, and the screen went black in an instant. Emma thought this wasn't supposed to be posted, but the damage was already irreversible. Ethan Miller said, "Emma, what did you just do?" His voice cracked with fear as the comments flooded in. Rachel Carter whispered, "People are stitching this already. It's everywhere." Emma's eyes filled with dread as her phone buzzed with endless notifications. James Walker said, "Emma, the hashtag with your name is trending." Emma muttered, "They're mocking me, and they don't even know the truth." Outside the walls of her room, the digital mob roared louder with each refresh. Screens across the world replayed her humiliation, spreading it like wildfire. Emma clutched her chest, feeling like she was suffocating under invisible weight. She whispered, "Why can't it just stop?" But the storm had only begun. Morning light pierced Emma Johnson's room, yet she hadn't slept. Notifications kept pouring in, each one a reminder of last night's disaster. Ethan Miller said, "It's on every platform, Emma." Rachel Carter added, "People think it's funny, they don't see you're breaking." Emma whispered, "My life is over." James Walker stood near the window, silent, his face heavy with guilt. The world outside was moving on, but inside, Emma's world had collapsed. Every breath she took felt like she was inhaling shame, and the buzzing phone on her desk was the cruel metronome of her downfall. Emma Johnson scrolled through comments, each word cutting like a knife. Strangers mocked her screams, edited memes of her breakdown, and branded her a fraud. Ethan Miller said, "Stop reading them, Emma." Rachel Carter said, "It's too late, they've decided who you are." Emma whispered, "I just wanted to make people smile." James Walker muttered, "The internet never forgives." Her heart sank as her follower count plummeted, every refresh another wound that bled her dry. She whispered, "Why does it feel like drowning?" Emma Johnson replayed the clip, her scream echoing in the dark room. Her own voice felt alien, a stranger trapped on screen. Ethan Miller said, "It doesn't even show what really happened." Rachel Carter replied, "But they don't care. The clip is the truth now." James Walker shook his head and muttered, "Perception beats reality." Emma whispered, "Then who am I anymore?" The clip looped endlessly, each replay branding her identity deeper into the collective memory of strangers who mocked her pain. The night ended in silence, but silence screamed louder than words. Emma Johnson lay awake, replaying every second of humiliation in her head. Ethan Miller whispered, "We'll figure this out." Rachel Carter murmured, "You're not alone." James Walker added, "But the internet doesn't forget." Emma closed her eyes, but the ringing of phantom notifications echoed in her ears. She whispered, "Tomorrow they'll still be laughing." Outside her window, the city was quiet, but online, her storm still raged unchecked. Emma Johnson sat on her childhood bed, staring at posters that once felt like anchors, but now mocked her. She whispered, "Everything I built is crumbling." Ethan Miller paced nervously, muttering, "This shouldn't define you." Rachel Carter sighed, "But Emma, they don't care who you really are. They only care about what entertains them." James Walker leaned against the dresser, his voice low, "The internet strips away the person and leaves only the mistake." Emma ran her hand over an old notebook filled with her ideas for videos, every page now feeling like a betrayal. She whispered, "I started this to feel seen, and now I feel invisible." Ethan Miller stopped pacing and looked at her with desperation. "You're more than the likes." Rachel Carter added softly, "They can't erase who you are." But Emma's heart sank deeper as the buzz of another notification filled the room, a cruel reminder that her digital self was unraveling faster than her real one. Emma Johnson's mother knocked softly on the door, her muffled voice asking, "Are you eating?" Emma replied weakly, "I'm fine." Inside, Ethan Miller muttered, "You're not fine, Emma." Rachel Carter hugged her knees and said, "She's trying to hold everything inside." James Walker looked down, his jaw clenched, and whispered, "Families don't understand what this feels like." Emma closed her eyes, tears rolling silently, whispering, "I can't let her see me like this." Ethan Miller said firmly, "You don't have to fight alone." Rachel Carter's voice cracked, "But the world doesn't see her as Emma anymore. They see her as the meme." Emma pressed her face into her pillow, muffling her sob, while another round of laughter echoed from her phone like a cruel phantom. Emma Johnson opened her laptop, scrolling through old drafts of videos filled with laughter and light. She whispered, "This was supposed to be fun." Ethan Miller shook his head. "It still can be, Emma." Rachel Carter leaned closer, whispering, "But now, every smile feels like a mask." James Walker sighed heavily. "You're carrying a burden no one your age should carry." Emma clicked an old draft, her younger self on screen radiating joy, and it felt like watching a ghost. She whispered, "That girl is gone." Ethan Miller said with conviction, "She's still here beneath the noise." Rachel Carter reached for her hand. "Don't let them erase you." Emma shut the laptop suddenly, the glow vanishing as quickly as her courage. The friends gathered at the kitchen table, plates untouched, silence thick between them. Emma Johnson whispered, "I used to dream of brand deals and fans. Now I just dream of disappearing." Ethan Miller clenched his fists. "They shouldn't have this power over you." Rachel Carter said softly, "Emma, you gave them your joy, and they turned it into a weapon." James Walker muttered, "Because to them you're not Emma Johnson, you're content." Emma looked at the untouched food and murmured, "Even eating feels impossible." Ethan Miller's voice grew louder, "You're still here, and that means something." But Emma's hollow stare at the table said otherwise, as the sound of laughter online drowned the silence around them. Emma Johnson sat by her window, staring at the city lights like they might hold answers. She whispered, "They'll never forgive me." Ethan Miller joined her, saying, "Maybe they don't have to. You can forgive yourself." Rachel Carter whispered, "Emma, your worth isn't in their comments." James Walker said quietly, "But the scars will last." Emma's reflection in the glass showed a stranger, a girl she barely recognized. She whispered, "I don't know who I am anymore." Ethan Miller placed his hand on her shoulder. "You are Emma, not the meme." Rachel Carter's voice trembled, "We still see you." The city outside glowed indifferent, while Emma's storm raged silently within. Emma Johnson scrolled through her notifications as screenshots of private messages spread across Twitter and TikTok. Her heart sank as strangers mocked her words out of context. She whispered, "They know everything." Ethan Miller slammed his fist on the desk, shouting, "This isn't fair." Rachel Carter said, "Screenshots never die, Emma. Once it's out there, it's forever." James Walker looked grim, his voice low. "And brands are watching. They don't want someone they can't control." Emma's phone buzzed again, a new DM flashing across the screen, cruel laughter etched in emojis. She muttered, "It feels like drowning." Ethan Miller said, "Stop reading it." Rachel Carter whispered, "You can't look away though, can you?" Emma's lips trembled as she admitted, "I feel like I don't exist anymore, just a meme in their hands." The room grew heavier with each vibration from her phone, a rhythm of shame she couldn't silence. The sound of laughter echoed through Emma Johnson's phone as viral edits of her scream filled Instagram reels. She whispered, "They turned me into a joke." Ethan Miller shook his head. "This isn't you, Emma." Rachel Carter said, "But this is what they want now." James Walker muttered, "Followers are dropping. Sponsors too. The countdown's already started." Emma scrolled through reels where strangers lip-synced her pain, mocking her with exaggerated gestures. She muttered, "They don't even see me anymore." Ethan Miller said firmly, "Don't give them the power." Rachel Carter whispered, "But they already took it." Emma's voice broke as she whispered, "Every refresh feels like another wave pulling me under." The friends sat in silence as the mocking chorus from the internet replaced the quiet in the room. Emma Johnson woke to find her inbox filled with cancelled contracts and cold apologies from brands. She whispered, "They've all left me." Ethan Miller read an email aloud, his voice shaking, effective immediately. The partnership is terminated. Rachel Carter said, they don't even wait for the truth. James Walker muttered, because controversy burns faster than loyalty. Emma's chest tightened as she stared at the emails, each subject line another wound. She whispered, I'm disposable to them. Ethan Miller said, no, you're human. Rachel Carter squeezed Emma's hand, but they only see numbers. Emma looked at the screen again, whispering, then I'm already gone. The silence after her words was suffocating, heavier than the flood of notifications. Emma Johnson sat on the floor as her phone buzzed relentlessly, each new message another cruel jab. She whispered, I thought they were friends. Ethan Miller frowned. People are blocking you, Emma. Rachel Carter sighed. They don't want to get burned with you. James Walker added, the mob feeds on fear. No one wants to be next. Emma stared at her contact list, names of once close friends now grayed out, their stories no longer hers to see. She muttered, they erased me like I was nothing. Ethan Miller said, they're cowards. Rachel Carter shook her head, no, they're just afraid. Emma whispered, so I'm alone now. The room fell quiet as the weight of abandonment pressed down on her like a stone she could never lift. Emma Johnson leaned against the wall, her reflection in the mirror almost unrecognizable. She whispered, I don't see me anymore, only their version. Ethan Miller said, don't let them define you. Rachel Carter murmured, but their voices are louder than ours. James Walker said grimly, and the louder they get, the smaller you feel. Emma touched the mirror, her hand trembling, as if trying to reach the girl she used to be. She whispered, I'm disappearing. Ethan Miller stepped closer. No, Emma, you're still here. Rachel Carter added, we see you, even if they don't. Emma's eyes filled with tears, her whisper breaking, then why does it feel like I'm already gone? The silence afterward was filled only by the echo of notifications still buzzing from her phone. Emma Johnson sat at her desk, scrolling through yet another flood of comments when a new video surfaced online. Her hands shook as she pressed play. She whispered, this isn't my account. Ethan Miller leaned forward, his brows furrowed. Emma, that's your username. Rachel Carter gasped, but the voice, it isn't you. James Walker muttered darkly, someone close to you had access. Emma's chest tightened as betrayal crept into her bones. She whispered, someone I trusted did this. Ethan Miller slammed his fist on the desk. Who else had your password? Rachel Carter whispered, maybe it was someone who knew everything. Emma's eyes filled with dread. Then it was never strangers destroying me. It was someone in my circle. The silence in the room was pierced only by the sound of her phone, buzzing with another mocking notification. Emma Johnson's voice trembled as she scrolled through her DMs. Look, she whispered, messages sent from my account that I never wrote. Ethan Miller said, that means someone has been inside your life for weeks. Rachel Carter shook her head, this was planned. James Walker muttered, and they wanted this moment, the explosion, the chaos. Emma's tears fell onto the keyboard as she whispered, they turned me into a weapon against myself. Ethan Miller said furiously, we need to find who it is. Rachel Carter added softly, Emma, this betrayal cuts deeper because it's personal. James Walker's jaw tightened, and the internet is feeding on every drop of blood spilled. Emma pressed her hands over her face, whispering, why would they do this to me? The friends gathered around Emma Johnson's phone as a chilling realization hit them. Ethan Miller muttered, who else knew your passwords? Rachel Carter whispered, only us. And her voice trailed off. Emma's eyes darted between them, suspicion flooding her chest. She whispered, one of you? James Walker's voice was cold, or someone you let too close. The silence grew unbearable as trust fractured in the air. Emma whispered, I can't believe I even have to ask this. Ethan Miller said quickly, Emma, I'd never betray you. Rachel Carter looked pale. Neither would I. James Walker crossed his arms. Then maybe the enemy's closer than you think. Emma clutched her phone tightly, whispering, I don't know who to believe anymore. Emma Johnson stared at the screen as the video replayed, her screen twisted into something darker. Ethan Miller muttered, This was edited. Rachel Carter gasped, The timeline is wrong. It's spliced. James Walker narrowed his eyes. So it wasn't an accident. Someone built this narrative. Emma whispered, They made me into a villain. Ethan Miller slammed his hand on the desk. This isn't exposure, it's sabotage. Rachel Carter said, The worst part is, people believe it without question. James Walker added coldly, Because lies travel faster than truth. Emma whispered, Then I've lost before I even knew the game. The video looped again, mocking her with every replay. Emma Johnson's body trembled as she whispered, It wasn't strangers, it was someone I love. Ethan Miller said fiercely, Whoever it is, they'll pay. Rachel Carter's voice broke, Emma, what if it's closer than you think? James Walker muttered, Maybe the person who smiles in front of you stabs you when you turn away. Emma pressed her fists against her chest, whispering, How do I trust anyone now? Ethan Miller reached for her shoulder. You trust us. Rachel Carter whispered, But what if it was one of us? Silence hung heavy in the air as suspicion spread like poison. Emma whispered, The betrayal cuts deeper than the mob ever could. Emma Johnson sat trembling before her ring light, live stream about to start. She whispered, They need to hear me. Ethan Miller muttered, Emma, don't do this. Rachel Carter said, You're exposing yourself to more hate. James Walker's voice was steady, Or maybe this is how you reclaim control. Emma's finger hovered over the button before pressing it, her face illuminated as thousands poured into the stream. I didn't post that video, she said, her voice breaking. Comments flooded in, some laughing, some doubting, others silent. Ethan Miller whispered, Keep talking. Rachel Carter urged, Show them the truth. Emma's tears reflected in the light as she begged, I just want you to see me, not the lie. The chat scrolled mercilessly, each word a blade slicing into her heart. James Walker muttered, The whole world's watching. Emma whispered, Then let them. As the live stream continued, Emma Johnson's voice cracked. I was betrayed by someone close, she confessed. Ethan Miller whispered urgently, Emma, be careful. Rachel Carter's eyes widened, You don't know who's watching. James Walker muttered, It's too late, the words are out. The chat exploded, speculation raging like fire. Who was it? Liar. Expose them. Emma gripped the desk, whispering, You think you know me, but you don't. Ethan Miller pleaded, Emma, end it now. Rachel Carter whispered, The mob isn't listening. They're feeding. Emma stared into the camera, her voice trembling. I won't be silenced. Her tears fell, catching the light, while the chat scrolled so fast it blurred into chaos. James Walker muttered darkly, The mob loves blood, and you just gave them a target. The tension peaked as Emma Johnson's livestream count soared to hundreds of thousands. She whispered, I was set up. Ethan Miller shook his head. Emma, stop now. Rachel Carter whispered, They'll twist this too. James Walker muttered, Maybe that's the point, to show them the cracks. Emma's screen filled with mocking comments alongside a few sympathetic voices. She shouted, I'm not your joke. Her voice echoed, raw and broken. Ethan Miller placed a hand on her arm. You're giving them more. Rachel Carter cried, They don't care about your pain. James Walker's eyes narrowed as he muttered, But they'll care about the truth when it hits. Emma slammed her fist on the desk, her voice trembling. Then I'll give them truth, even if it destroys me. Emma Johnson's voice cracked as she confronted the unseen betrayer. You wanted to ruin me, didn't you? She shouted at the camera. Ethan Miller whispered, Emma, don't do this live. Rachel Carter cried, You don't even know who it is yet. James Walker's voice was low, but she's forcing their hand. The chat went wild, viewers spamming accusations, clips already being cut for reposts. Emma's tears turned into fury, her face red. You smiled in my face and stabbed me in the back. Ethan Miller pulled at her sleeve. Please, stop. Rachel Carter sobbed. This isn't safe. James Walker muttered coldly. It's too late to stop. This is the climax. Emma's scream pierced the silence. I will not be erased. The internet roared back in response, echoing her pain and fury. The climax hit as Emma Johnson's live stream shattered into chaos. Notifications flooded, viewers climbing, reactions multiplying. She whispered into the chaos. I won't break for you. Ethan Miller muttered. Emma, this will follow you forever. Rachel Carter whispered, but she's standing her ground. James Walker muttered, this is the edge, and the world is watching. Emma stared directly into the camera, her voice trembling but strong. You can laugh, you can cancel me, but you can't erase me. The chat exploded, half mocking, half praising, but the moment was seared into digital history. Ethan Miller whispered, you've lit a fire you can't put out. Rachel Carter added softly, but maybe that fire is what saves you. Emma collapsed back in her chair, exhausted, whispering, then let it burn. Emma Johnson sat in silence, her livestream finally ended, the room echoing with emptiness. She whispered, it's over. Ethan Miller said softly, not over, just different now. Rachel Carter murmured, you showed them the truth, but it cost you. James Walker leaned against the wall, his voice flat. The internet never forgets Emma, but it always moves on. Emma's eyes drifted to her phone, notifications still buzzing but softer, fading into background noise. She whispered, they'll never see me the same again. Ethan Miller placed a hand on her shoulder. That doesn't mean you're gone. Rachel Carter added, you're still Emma, even if they twisted your name. Emma closed her eyes, breathing heavy, her chest rising and falling like waves after a storm. She whispered, maybe I can survive the wreckage. The following morning, Emma Johnson sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through articles. She whispered, they're still writing about me. Ethan Miller set down a mug of coffee. They'll move on soon. Rachel Carter sighed, but the scars won't. James Walker muttered, the world loves to chew people up and spit them out. Emma stared at headlines flashing her name, her face frozen mid-screen plastered across thumbnails. She whispered, that's who I am to them now. Ethan Miller said, no, that's who you were for a moment, not forever. Rachel Carter's voice cracked, it doesn't feel fair. James Walker added, fair doesn't exist online, only clicks. Emma pushed the phone aside and whispered, then maybe I stop feeding them. Emma Johnson scrolled through her follower count, the numbers dropping like sand through an hourglass. She whispered, I'm disappearing. Ethan Miller shook his head. No, you're just shedding. Rachel Carter leaned close. The people left are the ones who matter. James Walker said, or the ones waiting for your next mistake. Emma sighed, placing her phone face down on the desk. She whispered, what if I never post again? Ethan Miller replied, then you'll still be Emma. Rachel Carter smiled faintly, you don't need their approval to exist. James Walker added, but you'll always be in their memory, for better or worse. Emma stared at the darkened screen, whispering, maybe I'll learn to live with that. That evening, Emma Johnson walked with her friends along quiet streets, the city lights glowing softly. She whispered, do you think I'll ever be normal again? Ethan Miller replied, normal doesn't exist anymore. Rachel Carter said, but you can still find peace. James Walker muttered, peace isn't given, it's taken. Emma looked up at the sky, her voice small, then maybe I'll take it. Ethan Miller smiled faintly, that's the Emma I know. Rachel Carter linked arms with Emma, you're not alone in this. James Walker added, even if the mob forgets, we won't. Emma exhaled deeply, whispering, then maybe I'll be okay. Emma Johnson sat by her window again, city lights twinkling outside. She whispered, I'm not who I was, but I'm still here. Ethan Miller said softly, that's enough. Rachel Carter whispered, Scars don't erase you. They just remind you. James Walker muttered, the world moves on, but you'll carry this forever. Emma closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. She whispered, then I'll carry it, but it won't break me. Ethan Miller placed his hand gently over hers. Rachel Carter smiled faintly. You are stronger than you know. James Walker added, survival is victory. Emma exhaled, her voice steady now. Then I've already won. Emma Johnson sat alone in her room, the city beyond her window quiet, but her phone buzzing with new messages. She whispered, it should be over. Ethan Miller muttered, the mob moved on, Emma? Rachel Carter added softly, but you're still here. James Walker leaned against the doorframe, voice steady. The silence feels different, doesn't it? Emma glanced at her phone, unread notifications blinking like warning lights. She whispered, I don't know if I want to open them. Ethan Miller said, you don't have to. Rachel Carter whispered, but curiosity always wins. Emma took a shaky breath and unlocked her screen. Her eyes widened as a chilling new DM appeared. You thought it was over? Her hand trembled, whispering, it never ends. Emma Johnson stared at the DM, her voice cracking. They're still watching. Ethan Miller whispered, block them. Rachel Carter muttered, but another will come. James Walker said, that's the truth of living online. You're never alone, even when you want to be. Emma's breathing grew shallow, her reflection in the screen distorted by tears. She whispered, it feels like I'm haunted. Ethan Miller said, it's just words. Rachel Carter countered, but words don't disappear. Emma held the phone tighter, whispering, they'll never let me go. The screen glowed in the darkness, a single message pulsing like a heartbeat that refused to die. Emma Johnson whispered, what if I just disappear? Ethan Miller frowned, delete your account? Rachel Carter said, that won't erase what's already out there. James Walker muttered, but maybe it will give you peace. Emma stared at her screen, finger hovering over the delete button. She whispered, once I do this, there's no going back. Ethan Miller said gently, maybe that's what you need. Rachel Carter whispered, but part of you will mourn it. Emma closed her eyes, pressed down and whispered, goodbye. The screen flickered, and her account vanished into silence. She exhaled, whispering, it's done. But deep inside she knew the echoes would remain. After deleting her account, Emma Johnson whispered, it's quiet. Ethan Miller said softly, you took back control. Rachel Carter murmured, but the world won't forget. James Walker replied coldly, no, but they'll move on to their next victim. Emma looked out her window, the city alive but indifferent. She whispered, they'll laugh at someone else tomorrow. Ethan Miller said, and you'll still be here. Rachel Carter added, you'll heal. Emma pressed her forehead to the glass, whispering, then maybe the silence is my victory. The quiet filled the room, both heavy and freeing, as the glow of the city washed over them. In the final moments, Emma Johnson whispered, you never really know who's watching. Ethan Miller said, but you don't need to fear them anymore. Rachel Carter whispered, you've survived. James Walker muttered, survival is louder than their laughter. Emma looked directly into the darkened lens of her webcam, speaking as if to the ghost of her audience. You can mock me, erase me, but I'll still be human. And you'll never change that. Her hand reached out, switching the camera off. The screen faded into silence, leaving only the echo of her last words haunting the darkness.